They call forgiveness divine, but divinity belongs to the dead. The living are not afforded such luxury. We are left only with memory, adjustment, and precision. I have seen kingdoms fall, not by the blade of an enemy, but by the foolish compassion of their rulers. A prince who pardons betrayal extends an open invitation to treachery. A man who buries his wounds assures they will bleed anew. Let the clergy chant forgiveness. It keeps the masses docile. But those who govern, those who outmaneuver and survive, they must remember. For memory is the archive of power. Every offense is a blueprint. Every insult a coordinate. You do not ascend by virtue. You ascend by necessity. And nothing is more essential than remembrance. To forgive without calculation is to relinquish your strategic position. It tells your adversaries, wound me freely, I will not retaliate, and they will oblige. The one who forgives once is expected to forgive eternally. But the one who remembers, he is not feared for his fury, but for his precision. His memory is not stained with emotion, but sharpened with consequence. Let them believe you are merciful. Let them bow, tremble, offer repentance. Accept it if it suits your plan. Smile, nod, embrace them if the moment calls for it. But carve their name in the ledger, not for impulsive vengeance, but for calculated accounting. That is control. That is strategy. That is Machiavellian. Retribution is not wrath. It is symmetry. Pardon is not liberation. It is abdication. The man who keeps record is not vengeful. He is ready. And readiness, in war, in politics, in existence itself, is the only safeguard. What kind of fool walks willingly back into the mouth that once devoured him and calls it healing? No, the wise study the predator, measure its hunger, and craft their blade in silence. They do not share wounds for sympathy. They forge them into armor. They remember the betrayals, not to ache, but to architect the future. A prince must be the fox to identify snares and the lion to paralyze the pack. Forgiveness too often removes the fangs of both. If your enemy believes betrayal is consequence-free, then you are not feared. You are forgotten. And obscurity is the death of dominion. The truest revenge is not their ruin. It is your resurrection. It is the moment your name echoes like thunder in the skulls of those who wronged you. And that begins with remembrance. Always. Never carve your pain in sand, etch it in stone. Those who harmed you will come begging for peace once they sense your ascent. But peace without reckoning is simply a postponed reckoning. And I say this not from bitterness, but from the unflinching discipline of one who remembers everything. There are two forms of memory, one that imprisons you in the past and one that elevates you above it. Choose the latter. Choose to remember not with emotion, but with purpose. To become the engineer of consequence, not the casualty of repetition. Every scar you bear is a coded message. Every act of betrayal is a lesson written in blood. Those who crossed you have unknowingly authored your manual. To forgive is to set that manual aflame. To remember is to wield it. Do not play the honorable fool. Do not discard your pain just to look healed. True healing is not in forgetting, but in transforming. It is in using your wounds as armor, not hiding them behind false peace. Forgiveness may soothe your emotions, but memory equips your intellect. And in a world built on power, it is intellect that wins the wars the heart cannot endure. Hold on to the lies, the broken loyalties, the applause that followed your losses, not out of bitterness, but so that trust is never misplaced again. In the arena of power, a second chance is often a second opening for your destruction. And life operates by the same rules. Your enemies will decorate their shame with apologies. They'll label you ruthless for remembering. Let them. That discomfort they feel in your silence, that is fear. That anxiety in your calm, that is influence. Forgiveness is for the saints, but sainthood demands sacrifice. And you were not made to die for the sins of others. You were made to rise, to lead, to conquer. And for that, you need a steel memory, unbending, unmerciful. And when the time comes, when your seat is elevated and their defenses are bare, deliver justice with precision and never speak of it again. That is how authority moves. That is how rulers reign. That is how minds shaped by Machiavelli endure the storms that destroy others. Forgiveness is weakness dressed as virtue. Never forget, they'll call you heartless. They'll say you bear grudges. But understand, this is guilt speaking. It is not you they fear. It is the permanence of your memory. Your refusal to erase the past shines a light on their crimes. Your silence reflects a truth they cannot face. And so they accuse, hoping to shake your conviction. Do not waver. Their judgment is confirmation of your strength. The fragile man forgives to feel morally superior. The formidable man remembers because he refuses to play the fool a second time. This world does not reward virtue. It rewards cunning. And memory is the root from which all cunning grows. A ruler who forgets his past invites his downfall. A sovereign who forgives treachery without penalty becomes the architect of his own ruin. Do not let guilt soften your resolve. Sentiment is the tomb of leadership. If you are to reign over your path, your thoughts, your empire, you must discard the hunger to be loved and embrace the demand to be feared, or at the very least, unshakably respected. And respect is not forged in mercy. It is forged in boundaries, carved in stone and protected not with pleas, but with force. Begin to treat every offense as intelligence, every insult as proof, every betrayal as instruction. When someone deceives you, accept it the first time. When they turn on you, repay them with distance. This is not spite, it is insight. And insight is the most unforgiving power on earth. It leaves no room for fantasy, no space for delusion, only truth. And truth is where power finds its roots. Do not expend your energy confronting those who have wronged you. Let them remain trapped in the echo chamber of your silence. Let your withdrawal echo louder than any accusation. But in your own mind, within the quiet walls of your private resolve, build a vault where every offense is archived. Your memory must become a fortress. Your discipline, a silent army. Your stillness, a sharpened weapon. When your enemies return, as they inevitably will, they must face a version of you fortified by silence, not one still seeking resolution. That is not revenge. That is victory. Forgiveness might soothe your pride in the moment, but it is memory that crafts your legacy. This world is not shaped by softness. It is ruled by predators cloaked in civility. You must be courteous, yes, polished, of course. But behind every smile must rest the full memory of what they did, etched deeply enough to govern every choice you make going forward. Never allow the same wound twice. Never let a familiar voice whisper poison again. And never confuse your craving for peace with a substitute for power. Peace bought with forgetfulness is fleeting, but power anchored in remembrance endures. Understand this truth: the world does not extend grace to the weak. It simply erases them. But it remembers the cold, composed, unshakable mind that rose from betrayal, not through forgiveness, but through mastery. So be kind, but never foolish. Be discerning, never passive. Forgive only if it strengthens your strategic position. And above all, remember, forgetting is a comfort only the naive can afford. This is how you build legacy, not in the dust of what happened to you, but in the fire of what you refuse to let happen again. Let others speak of mercy. Let them bleed beneath white flags. But you carry no flag, you carry memory. Not for reckless retaliation, but for sovereign clarity, deliberate judgment, and absolute self-command. That is your weapon. Protect it, refine it, and never ever forget it. Because forgiveness is for the fragile, and you remember everything. A man who remembers does not chase retribution. He becomes it. His presence, his stillness, his rise, none are coincidences. They are executions, precise, silent, absolute. In positions of power, you do not need to shout. You do not need to retaliate at every slight. You only need to recall, consistently, silently, unshakably. A ruler who forgets is devoured by his court. A man who forgives excessively becomes the amusement of those who quietly despise him. But a leader who remembers instills fear even without a word. Because what people fear most isn't discipline, it's consequence. And nothing breeds consequence like memory, weaponized without warning. If you govern an empire, be it a company, a household, or your own psyche, you must grasp this truth. People test boundaries. They observe your responses. They push where there is no resistance. Every time you let an offense go unanswered, you reinforce their audacity. Betrayal rarely arrives with a roar. It comes in fragments, in white lies, in backhanded remarks, in patterns disguised as slips. And each time you grant unearned forgiveness, you broadcast weakness. You whisper, I am soft. I am forgettable. Try again. But when you remember, when you quietly track the slights, when you nod outwardly while recording everything inwardly, you become volatile in your calm. And no force is more lethal than a man whose silence conceals a scorecard. This is real power, not volatility, not theatrics, but the quiet enforcement of memory. And let's be unflinching. Relationships are not exempt from this law. Love is not blindness. Loyalty is not the erasure of repeated injury. If someone claims to love you but wounds you in cycles, not incidents, meet them with ice. Don't explain what they already understand. Don't ask for the change they'll never give. Remember and exit like the sovereign of your life. Nothing shatters a deceiver more than being invisible to the one they once controlled. You don't need flames to burn them. Sometimes your growth is the inferno. But to ignite that fire, you must remember. To forget is to volunteer for the next wound. Revenge, true revenge, is not rage. It is not spectacle. It is not even revenge. It is evolution. When those who harmed you realize you carry no grudge but perfect recall, that's when fear begins. Because bitterness fades, but precision sharpens. Machiavellian revenge does not dismantle them. It erases the path they once used to reach you. They'll see your image in every door that will never open again, in every achievement they'll never match, in every silence that once held your trust. That is not revenge. That is architecture. That is sovereignty. You are not here for mercy. You are here to leave a mark so complete, your absence is the sharpest punishment of all. So never forget who betrayed you. Never forget who exploited your trust. Never forget who smiled while plunging the knife in. And then ascend, not with vengeance, but with elegance. You owe no one your forgiveness, but you owe yourself the kind of memory that transforms agony into accuracy. Because in the end, the world doesn't honor those who forgive the most. It remembers those who rebuilt from ruin and never allowed themselves to be burned twice. Let this be clear. Remembering is not reliving. The weak dwell in suffering. The strong dissect. Most people don't forgive because they're noble. They do so because they lack the mental discipline to endure the discomfort. Emotion overtakes them. Pain drowns them. And they attempt to quiet that chaos by offering forgiveness to the very ones who fractured them. But Machiavelli would smirk, because the truth is undeniable. Forgiveness is emotional convenience. Memory, on the other hand, is a battlefield of the mind. If you intend to command your destiny, you must fortify your psyche. Your memory must be your private military. And like any great force, it demands order. You don't cling to grudges. That's disorder. You log offenses. You identify patterns. You treat betrayal not as drama, but as data. Every person who harms you becomes an entry in the archive, and you revisit those records not to rekindle emotion, but to sharpen perception, strengthen discipline, and fortify yourself against future deceit. This is how real power is constructed, not through forgiveness, but through psychological armor. Train your thoughts to replay the pain not with emotion, but with strategy. Ask yourself, why did I allow this breach? What blind spot did they exploit? What weakness did I present that made them feel they could get away with it? When you start thinking like this, you turn your history into a strategic blueprint. Each scar becomes not a wound, but a warning sign, one that makes you sharper, colder, immune to repetition. To control your emotions is not to suppress them, it's to deny them command. You feel everything, but you act on nothing, until action is deliberate, precise, and necessary. That is Machiavellian intelligence. That is untouchable power. Let the emotionally undisciplined flail in reaction. Let them scream, forgive, and relive. You distill, you plot, you ascend. And when they ask, why are you so guarded, you offer a subtle smile, because you know it's often those same people who made the walls necessary. You are not here to appease. You are not here to play the helpless. You are here to seize command over your world. And to do that, you must archive every cruel lesson life ever forced upon you, especially the brutal ones, especially the betrayals, especially the nights when the silence was louder than your thoughts. Don't erase those memories. Don't cover them in false grace. Use them. Let them become your training ground. Record them. Study them. Learn not just who hurt you, but how. And more critically, why you allowed it. Because once you understand that, you are no longer prey. You are a weapon honed by fire. And the world fears those who grow stronger from pain instead of drowning. This isn't vengeance, it's intelligence. This isn't bitterness, it's memory, honed like a blade. Because the one who remembers holds the power. So when they ask why you're composed, why you don't argue, why you simply disappear, let them speculate, let them whisper, let them forget. But you remember. Because forgiveness is for the fragile. And your mind is a fortress built for war. Legacy isn't forged in mercy. It isn't sculpted by apologies or softened by grace. Legacy is etched through memory, precise, calculated, and relentless. The world does not kneel before the kind. It bows to those who become unforgettable. And unforgettable are not those who forgave. They are the ones who remembered in silence, in design, and unwavering strength. People will always push limits. They will insult you, betray you, steal from you, and then act entitled to your forgiveness. Why? Well, because forgiveness makes you safe. It makes you disappear into the crowd. It turns you into just another victim who swallowed the pain and moved on. But the moment you choose to remember, not out of spite, but out of strategy, you become untamed. You become a threat. You become sovereign. Here is the final unflinching truth, one most people are too soft to face. The world does not honor the merciful. It reveres the relentless, not the emotional wrecks crying out for retribution, but the ones who rise so far beyond the betrayal that they turn their enemies into shadows. This is not ego. This is domination. And domination is the essence of all power. Machiavelli understood this. Every word he ever wrote was a warning. Never forget, never forgive. Never let weakness masquerading as virtue fester inside you. Because the second you begin to absolve what should never be absolved, you decay from within. You become a house collapsing under the weight of compassion that was never deserved. And in that collapse, you hand your enemies the one thing they couldn't create on their own, your surrender. Comprehend this. True power doesn't shout. It moves in silence, sharpened by memory, executed by design. Revenge doesn't always arrive in flames or blood. Sometimes it arrives when they hear your name in rooms they were never invited into. Sometimes it arrives when you become everything they said you'd never be. That kind of revenge, it's eternal, it's quiet, it's unforgettable, and it leaves a scar they'll never show, but never escape. Here's the brutal simplicity. People respond more to absence than affection. They respect the quiet withdrawal more than your tears. They fear a calculated distance far more than your forgiveness. So give them that. Give them your silence. Give them the unanswered questions. Let your disappearance speak louder than any apology ever could. And in that silence, they'll remember because you never forgot. When you ascend to that place, when your memory sharpens into a blade and your silence becomes unbreakable armor, closure becomes irrelevant. You are the closure. And those who once wronged you, they will feel it. They might never voice it, but they'll feel it. Every space they step into will remind them they lost access to you. Every victory you claim will echo like thunder in the hollow walls of their regret. That's how you win, with distance, with indifference, with unshakable presence. So don't fall for the world's glorification of forgiveness. Don't let the chorus of false morality guilt you into surrender. Those who beg for grace are often the same ones who will betray you again the moment they sense vulnerability. Believe that. Burn it into your mind. Never extend your power to those who once mistook it for an open door to harm you. You were never created to be soft. You weren't meant to be molded by deception or shattered by disloyalty. You were crafted for dominance, for surgical precision, for relentless memory. And when your legacy is etched in time, let those who opposed you speak your name with the reverence that only fear can produce, not because you hunted them down, but because you never needed to, because you remembered. And that made you untouchable. So if this message struck a chord, if it stirred something deep within you, then you already know the path. Hit that like button, subscribe, and carry this truth with you. You were never meant to forgive every offense. You were meant to rise so high they beg you to forget. But you won't, because forgiveness is for the weak. And you are something else entirely.